It's time for World Politics, and hopefully, folks will be joining us very shortly and all along those lines. But let's see what's happening in the world of politics and particularly globally and all along those lines. As we reported earlier, Israel military began its ground offensive in Gaza City as thousands of Palestinians flee. So that is something that we're seeing in the news as Palestinians flee Gaza City as Israel says it launched ground assault and the global outcry is going on in that particular situation. U.S. military confirms it sent observers to Russia Belarus war games. So that is something that we're hearing as well. And UN Commission finds that Israel committed genocide in Gaza. So that's something that's being reported in the news also. And Russia has a network of 200 camps for brainwashing Ukrainian children. Russia indoctrinates children from occupied Ukraine at 210 sites, is what a current study is saying, and all along those lines. And the Titanic sister ship, Britannic, was sunk by a mine in 1916. Divers have discovered artifacts from the wreckage. So artifacts recovered from the Titanic's sister ship and all along those lines. And the first objects retrieved from the wreck of the Titanic's sister ship in Greece are being analyzed and all along those lines. So Britannic's legacy comes alive in Greece through newly recovered objects. And Qatar and the U.S. are near defense deal after Israeli strike in Doha. So that's something that we're hearing as well. And tensions flare as Chinese and Philippine ships collide near a disputed shoal in South China Sea. So that's something else that is being reported. And Israel presented Syria with a proposal for a new security agreement. So Syrian president confirmed security talks with Israel, and under U.S. pressure, Syria and Israel inch toward a security deal. So definitely security chiefs are said to warn ministers Gaza City takeover will inevitably kill hostages. And Syria says working with the U.S. to reach a security understanding with Israel. So that's something that's being reported, as well as Israeli strikes the Yemeni port of Hodidi as Houthi rebels activate air defenses. So Israel launches a series of strikes on Yemen's Red Sea port Hodidi, and definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And IDF said strike in Houthi-controlled ports of that area after evacuation warnings. So that's definitely something that people are talking about as well. And Russia close to cutting oil output due to drone attacks, according to what some sources are saying. So Ukrainian drones strike one of Russia's top oil refineries, sparking fire, and that was reported a couple of days ago. And some people are asking, can NATO countries stop buying Russian oil as Trump is demanding? And oil rises after attack on Russian energy facilities. And like I said, that was reported a couple of days ago as well. So that's just some of the things that are going on in the world of politics. Let's see what's happening in the United States as well. Charlie Kirk, shooting suspect charged with aggravated murder and could face the death penalty. So definitely suspect faces aggravated murder charge and the death penalty. So it does look like that is something that they are going for. And text messages that Charlie Kirk's suspected shooter sent before the arrest are being released and all along those lines. So definitely we're going to see how this all plays out in the trial. And FBI Director Kash Patel clashes with skeptical Democrats at contentious hearing. So Kash Patel calls Adam Schiff a political buffoon during a heated Epstein-Maxwell hearing, and that was earlier today as well. So looks like he shouted at Democrat senators over Charlie Kirk and Jeffrey Epstein. And Cory Booker clashes with Kash Patel and says, I'm not afraid of you, and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well. And judge has tossed 2 state murder charges related to acts of terrorism in the case of Luigi Mangione, and that's the gentleman that was involved in the United Healthcare situation and all along those lines. So in that insurance executive killings, they are dismissing terrorism counts in that particular charge and everything like that. So looks like he's going to be facing other charges, including those murder charges, but state terrorism has been dismissed. And apparently Charlie Kirk suspect left note on shooting to roommate, authorities say, as charges are revealed. So Definitely will be following all of these various trials that are going on. And Republicans have released a 7 week spending bill as Democrats warn of a potential shutdown. So, House again votes to surrender tariff powers to Trump. So, that is something that is going on as Johnson released the spending bill and is daring Democrats to oppose it. So, definitely that's something going on as the GOP unveils plan to avert the government shutdown and all along those lines. So, how are you doing, Sasha? I was just reading some of the political news that was out there, but how are things going in your world? I know y'all had a very interesting and fun show, but very informative show, including that report on the gentleman from a different country that was fighting for Ukraine that Ivan provided you and everything.
Yeah.
So, so how are things
Okay.
going? What do you think about the tariffs?
Okay. Let's go one step at a time.
Yeah,
Now, about the tariffs, what we discussed today in my Ukrainian show was that Trump approached the European leaders. By the way, he went to visit UK and including King of England and Prince William and other dignitaries. So he's offering that Europeans have to stop buying Russian oil, gas, and oil products. And then, if that will happen, then US will also he didn't say exactly what US will do in that case. Supposedly, they will also stop buying oil products from Russia because right now US is on the list. US is number 4 country buying Russian oil products. Now, because Trump is not very credible person to say the least, why would European leaders trust him? Because for European leaders, it's a very painful decision to stop buying right away. They're going to stop in by the 2027. They are stopping buying any Russian gas and oil products. That's true. But to do it right now, by the way, it's even hard to see how they will replace this oil and gas products simply because there is no way that U.S. signed the tariffs deal, and we'll see if it's not going to be cancelled by Supreme Court. So the European Union countries will purchase $250 billion worth of oil and gas a year. Okay, and it will be going on for 5 years. For last year, I've checked, European countries purchased $87 billion. So how are they going to get from $87 billion to $250 billion in 1 year? I fail to really see how it can happen. So they're signing all kind of bogus papers that
right.
cannot be done, period. So this is absolute incredible misinformation, but rather it's not even misinformation, it's outright lie. It's just
Okay.
outright lie being given to American people and the world society. It's just exactly that. That's
Well,
talking about tariffs.
yeah, speaking of outright lies and everything, the other thing that I didn't really get to, but I think we've talked about it on other shows and all along those lines, is this notion that we're in the middle of the month and in about 2 weeks there's going to be a deadline. And some people are saying that this is where the Democrats need to show backbone because we may be heading toward a government shutdown unless they can come to an agreement. So I know you're going to do modern investment and you follow the economy, including the U.S. economy. So, what is your take on this notion of the potential of a government shutdown that could last for weeks or months on end and everything like that? Because there's even some people in the various political and media circuits that are saying that the Democrats should show a backbone and definitely stand up for what they believe is a more solid fiscal policy. But what is your take on this?
I don't think that Democrats have anything to lose. They have nothing to lose. They don't have power, and to get to any power, they need probably it's not going to happen um,
The
before
elections.
next midterm elections. So of course, go for shutdown, and that will not hurt Democrats because it's impossible. They're in such a low electoral position that nothing can happen that can hurt them even more. It's impossible. Just mathematically, whatever they have approval rating was 28%, if not less. It cannot go much lower than that, but it may hurt Republicans because they now have all levers of power. They have Senate, they have House, they have presidency, they have the Supreme Court, they have everything what there is in the United States of America. They got everything. So if there will be a shutdown, that will be an indication that they just cannot govern. If in situation like that, the shutdown happens, it means they cannot govern. And that can hurt them quite a bit, much more than Democrats in any case.
Yeah, that makes sense and everything along those lines. But yeah, that's what's going on there. What is your take on this whole situation in Israel? Because we didn't really talk about that on the news, but I did see that they are launching their full offensive and everything along those lines. And there are some people in the UN that are complaining, others that are cheering it on. But what is your take on this offensive and some of the other things that are taking place in the Middle East? Because I know they also attacked the Houthis and some other groups as well.
Well, what is doing Ukraine when Russia attacked it? They defend.
Right.
So all these countries that Israel attacks, they must defend themselves. There is no any other way. Nobody will stop Israel. No United Nations, nothing in this world can stop Israel. Only countries, whether it's Qatar or Egypt or anybody else in that region, they have to learn how to resist. If they will not, Israel will overpower them one by one. That's what's going to happen.
Okay, that makes sense and everything like that. And what's your take? You kind of talked about it earlier today on the no-fly zones that are going on in Ukraine and all along those lines. Because I did know that apparently, I guess Russia is trying to pull Poland and Romania into the war, even though they had originally said that they wanted these peace negotiations with Trump. But it doesn't look like those went anywhere and everything like that. So, what's your take on these no-fly zones and also the pulling of Poland and Ukraine? I mean, and Romania into the war.
Okay, Ukraine is the only factor that keeps Europe together and makes Russian attack against Europe quite difficult, if possible at all. Only if Ukraine exists and fights Russians. For that, it needs help from Europe. I don't count on US that much, but Europe for sure. And Europeans understand that. They are playing games with Trump. Oh, we are going to buy your gas and oil. Oh, we're going to invest or so on. That's a game. They know that Trump, all they're trying to make sure that Trump will not start to help Putin, that US will not start sending weapons to Putin. That's all what Europeans are trying to avoid. Ukraine, with the help of Europeans, it will withstand Russian attacks, and eventually, the sooner they will stop Russians, the better for Europe. That's why Europeans now are counting on several things. Yes, to keep the sky over Ukraine free of Russians, whether it's Russian fighters, the weapons this, drones and the missiles and all this garbage. Now there is a talk initiated by Poland about creation a special new formation of Ukraine, Poland, Baltic states,
Mm.
probably Scandinavians as well, and UK may join as well. That will be the recreation of a great uh, Polish Lithuanian union which existed 300-400 years ago from Baltic to the Black Sea. And that country was much stronger than Russia at the time. And in fact, they were taking Moscow more than once. And it's about time now that they will create a new alliance. They will not depend on United States or NATO, and they will have quite capable forces to fight Russians on their own.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. You mentioned it on the news earlier today. I think you might have even mentioned it on your Russia Ukraine show because you wanted to change the name and everything like that. But what is the role that Modi and India is going to play in all of these world politics in your mind and everything like that? And is he trying to be a centrist and somebody that's going to be a negotiator to try to bring people to the table, or will he find up being on the force of one side or the other? So what is your take on India and Modi? We don't have Steve Rao here, and I'll ask him maybe tomorrow. But I'm just wondering your take on the Indian role in world politics.
My take is very simple. Trump pushed Modi into China, Russian, North Korea orbit, and Modi was so upset by Trump and the United States that he demonstrated that he's not going to go for this bullshit, and he will rather join China. He never been in China for 7 years. There is such an animosity between India and China. Even that couldn't stop that. So basically, with all the sanctions, 50% tariffs on India, you can upset anybody, not just India, just any country. And interestingly enough, that he's not take, taking liberty of tariffs against Russia or China, just too scared. So he is doing that against India. So, so how India do you think would react? Very negatively, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, that makes sense. Coming back to the tariffs and everything, I know that you oftentimes talk about China and your current home country of Canada being the ones that are pushing back against these tariffs and all along those lines. So I just wondered, what is your take? Because I think he's been in office now for a few months and everything on Carney, and how is he doing as a Canadian leader and everything like that, both with the tariffs and against Trump and just in general? Because like I said, I follow some of the world leaders, but not enough to know what he's doing. But I'd love to hear your uh, own perception on Carney and his leadership.
Well, that's a very interesting situation. He's liberal, and of course, there are a lot of conservative, progressive conservative state provinces in Canada. And interestingly enough, that in this issue, he is supported by absolutely all provinces, whether they're liberal or conservative, it doesn't matter. He's supported by all, and all Canadians are incredibly supportive of Prime Minister, and they are mm, following of what he's doing, exactly what he's doing. He writes all the map of Canadian trade, world trade, and he's doing it so quickly and so forcefully. And there are already new um, trade routes are being implemented already. For example, the oil is Canadian oil, which almost 100% of it was going into United States. It's no longer the case. They are now sending oil directly to Asia, whether it's China or Japan, whoever are buying. and they are now sending liquefied gas, which was basically dominated by United States. Now Canada is coming to be a quite fierce competitor in liquefied gas, and that would go to Europe. And I think Trump probably, maybe his advisors, maybe they explain to him what's really happening, or they don't. Maybe they're too scared to explain to him what he's done. He's completely isolated United States on the world stage. There is no, there are no friends anymore. United States is a country on its own. There are no friends. Even European countries like part of G7, they are no friends of United States. They want to just bide their time until Trump will be gone, or at least midterm elections when his power will be severely reduced. Otherwise, they're just biding their time, waiting until all the scorer associated with Trump will be done and over with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know you and your wife like to go on vacation. A lot of times y'all are going to that Caribbean island that y'all love so dearly and everything along those lines. But I just wondered, when you go on those trips, do you ever follow the politics of those countries and everything? And also, what is your thoughts about, speaking of Trump, his attacks on these South American countries? Because apparently he's attacked, and I know Kim, who's one of our founders here on the network, has talked about his attacks on, I think, two Venezuelan ships, because he claims that there are drug terrorists that are on those boats, and that is why he is shooting at those boats in the Caribbean islands and in the Caribbean off of, even though the boats are coming from Venezuela and everything like that. I just wanted your take on Trump and his Latin American policies, and when you go on your trips, if you ever followed the politics of those countries, or you're too busy just relaxing.
Well, of course, I'm not going to Venezuela. I
Okay.
was there once in, I believe, 1986, which is 40 years ago.
Well,
But I was in Margarita Island. It's a
mhm.
beautiful, beautiful place. But of course, you cannot go there anymore. But I'm going to countries which are very close to Venezuela, which are
Well,
Cuba
right,
and Curacao.
right.
These are Dutch territories, beautiful places, great climate, great facilities. And I'm surprised that Trump hasn't asked Dutch that he wants to get over the silence.
Hmm.
I'm surprised. And actually, all the story with Greenland, it's sort of very quiet these days. Oh, Canada, too. He was about to. You know, interesting enough, if he would do only tariffs against Canada and wouldn't start that garbage of making Canada 51st state, well, okay, there would be discussions, they would negotiate some tariffs here and there and so on. But he infected Canada with such a hate against United States that there is a boycott in Canada of all American products and produce. And, I don't have the data how it hurts American producers or border states for sure, but trust me, there is a pain. There is a pain.
Well, not only that, but I want to say there are 50 states, and of course there are some that are trying to become states, like Puerto Rico and DC and others along those lines. And of course there are territories as well. Some of those that are trying to become states, and some that will always be territories. But if I remember my history correctly, and I definitely studied poli sci, that was my minor when I was in college, and all along those lines, while journalism was the major. We challenged the states that we got our if we challenged the countries that we got our states from, we would probably lose about half the country. And I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about, she wants a divorce from the United States, and she wants it to separate from the red and the blue states and all along those lines. Well, if we do that, I guess the French could take back Louisiana, the Mexicans could take back Texas, the Dutch could take back parts of New York. there could be like a whole lot of places that could go back to the various countries that they came from. I'm thinking, if not half, it would be close to half, because I know there was the whole Louisiana Purchase, there was the whole thing around Mexico, and of course there's provinces even around hey, Russia. And I know you joked about it on your show. Could take back Alaska. So I'm thinking at least half the states could go back to other countries, and then they can divide the United States. So what is your thoughts around that? Is that what he's going to wind up happen? Is these countries are going to try to come back and, to borrow your favorite expression, payback can be a mother, and everything along those lines? So maybe they're going to want to come back and reclaim their parts of the land that they granted the United States. So what's your take on that?
Well, I wouldn't consider that to be a very realistic scenario,
Right.
and not impossible, but quite unrealistic, at least to say. So we can joke about it if you'd like, but
No, that's what I was doing. I was just joking about it. I doubt it would be very realistic. But then again, I don't think Marjorie's plan is very realistic. But she said it again yesterday. She said she wants a national divorce. So she says she can't talk to Democrats, and she doesn't understand where they're coming from, in both in terms of world politics, but also in terms of national politics in the United States. So she really has said, and she said this again yesterday, I believe it was, that she would like to see a separation between the blue and the red states, because she doesn't understand them, or she doesn't think that they understand her. So it could be that we are heading toward a civil war. And I know other countries in the world have had civil wars. We can look at some of the African nations like Eritrea and Ethiopia, and even parts of Sudan and everything like that, if we want to look at the African nations. So what is your take on this notion of a United States civil war? Because it sounds like she's very serious about this. She's made this statement several times.
you see, what's happened is that if you remember the Civil War in the 19th century,
Mm-hmm.
that was South against North.
Right.
So they were defined the fighting along the certain lines. Now, today, you have a very diversified map of the United States, and it's very difficult to comprehend who is going to fight whom and what is the front line and how it's all be set up. But I'm afraid that it will be a different kind of civil war. What's happened is that when Trump sends the National Guards, the National Guards, in my understanding, belongs to states. So if he will take National Guards of red states and send them to blue states, that will overpower, in most cases, the blue states, and it will really make the blue states politically unstable, and they will have to, in certain cases, perhaps give up resisting this National Guards. So, in a way, if he will do it several times against several blue states, he will essentially uh, he will conduct a civil war, and he will win that war fairly easily, because he can take National Guards, go just for one blue state, not for all, not the stupid strategy of tariffs, announced tariffs against all the world, and created so many enemies and very few friends, if any. Now, here he will go one state at a time, using National Guards for red states, and this how he can become an American Tsar, because nobody.
He's already, because he just went to L.A. first, then he went to after L.A. he went to Memphis, well, and then before Memphis he was in D.C. So it was L.A., D.C., Memphis. Now he's talking about still going to Chicago. I have a funny feeling because it's a state that he is connected to and everything like that, and he is connected very much to a city because of his quote unquote real estate deals and everything. But they're saying that Mamdani has got a 21% lead over Cuomo and everything. And I know he's not a fan of Mamdani, so I expect that one of the states he's going to go to is New York City, and because New York City is, and the state itself is a Democratic state, even though Mamdani is not supporting Hochul and everything like that, even though Hochul supported him. But I'm thinking that that's on his target list. So what do you think about this notion? Is New York on his target list?
I think the toughest one for him will be Chicago.
Right.
That will be the toughest. This is why he wants to play around with Memphis and some other issues before he will make determination about Chicago. I think Chicago will be a real tough one. They have very strong governor, and I don't think that people in Chicago love Trump a lot. So this will be the toughest one. Probably it will be the last one that he will choose. Before that, he will go to other blue states, which will be much easier for him to overcome.
Yeah, I agree with you because I think Chicago will be very hard for him. I think that if he goes to Gretchen's area of Michigan, that's going to be hard, and
Yes,
he
yes.
might try to do that as well. But yeah, Michigan would be very hard. But yeah, Illinois and Michigan would be very tough for him to pull this off and everything along those lines. But we got the hacker coming up with your friend Peter Bennett at 6 o'clock. So since it's just you and I, when it's just two people, I do a 30-minute show, and if it's a lot of people, then I'll do an hour show for World Politics. So I think we'll settle for a 30-minute show, unless you've got other things that you wanted to address as well. So otherwise, we'll wrap this up as a 30-minute show, and I'll get ready to deal with Peter and Nick on the Wall Street Hacker, which comes up on this same day of Tuesday, and all along those lines. And I'll see you on tomorrow for both your regular show as well, meaning World Edition, as well as Modern Investment, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that's fine with me, Mark. Thank you. And please send me a YouTube link for this show, okay?
I will definitely do that.
Thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
So we're going to get on out of here. So let's get out of here. We'll have Wall Street Hacker coming up at 6 o'clock.